This is Otto Warmbier. He's a 21-year-old American college student.
My crime is very severe and pre-planned. I regret my actions more than anything.
2 months ago, he went on a New Year's party tour with a travel agency. The destination was Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea.
On the early morning of January 1st, 2016, I committed my crime aimed at harming the work ethic and the motivation of the Korean people.
After a night of partying, he allegedly took a poster from the hallway of his hotel. Shortly after, he was detained for perpetrating a hostile act against the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
I understand the severity of my crime.
Now he's here, trying to save his life, at the mercy of a totalitarian dictatorship.
I have been very impressed by the Korean government's humanitarian treatment of severe criminals like myself, and of their very fair and square legal procedures in the DPR Korea.
A communist regime that nurtures a deep hate for America.
The United States administration already knows about my act through the CIA and connived at my crime.
Soon, the case of this college kid will escalate the already tense relationship between two nuclear powers.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury.
Otto Warmbier, at this point, has no idea what he is about to face.
An American is being held captive in North Korea. He was sentenced to 21 years of hard labor.
Those prisons are rough places. If something very bad happened to them.
Americans' fateful trip to North Korea.
Complete failure to recognize fundamental human rights.
The dreams of a young man destroyed by dubious charges from a ruthless regime.
This very press conference might be his last chance to save his life.
I am the oldest son in my family. My mother needs me. My father needs me. My younger brother and my younger sister need me. I entirely beg you, people and government of the DPR Korea, for your forgiveness. Please, I have made the worst mistake of my life.
Otto Warmbier won't survive, and his case will bring the US and North Korea to the brink of war. But the version of events many people remember might not be true. Much of our research is based on this extensive GQ article. Find the link in the description. New Year's Eve, 2015. This is Kim Il-sung Square in Pyongyang. Thousands of North Koreans have gathered to watch the fireworks and greet the new year. Among them is a group of tourists. These are people from Europe, Canada, Australia, and the US. They're here with a travel agency, and they booked a 5-day, 4-night New Year's party tour for $1,200. Otto Warmbier is one of them. Now, after the fireworks, they return to their hotel, a 47-story tower located on a small island in the Taedong River. It boasts 5 restaurants, a bar, a sauna, a massage parlor, even a bowling alley. One of the restaurants revolves. Because of its location, people call it the Alcatraz of fun. During the tour, they'll drink at a fancy bar and eat at fine restaurants. And, on top, they get the full propaganda tour. They've already visited the 70-foot bronze statues of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, the country's first 2 dictators. They're regarded as near holy figures. State propaganda has it that when Kim Jong-il was born at the site of a holy mountain, a double rainbow and a glowing new star appeared in the sky. Today, his birthday, the Day of the Shining Star, is a public holiday. Citizens spontaneously salute the massive statues, but it's impossible to say whether it's real reverence or mandatory homage. Propaganda is everywhere. Billboards show images of missiles striking the US Capitol. Other posters sport slogans like, "Let's arm ourselves strongly with Kim Jong-il's patriotism." Disrespecting the communist dynasty can get you in big trouble. According to GQ, the Database Center for North Korean Human Rights confirmed a case of a factory janitor being prosecuted for bumping such a picture off the wall so that it fell and broke. Otto and the other tour members need to be careful. One wrong move, and they could face harsh punishment. Otto was raised in a suburb outside Cincinnati, Ohio, the oldest of 3 siblings. In high school, he was popular, athletic, and smart. At both prom and homecoming, he was crowned king. Speaking at his high school graduation, he quoted Andy Bernard from The Office.
"I wish there was a way to know that you're in the good old days before you've actually left them."
Now, he's majoring in finance. Halfway through his junior year, he decides to do a winter break adventure to North Korea. It makes sense. He'll be studying abroad in Hong Kong in the spring. In 2015, the State Department's travel advisory for North Korea is clear. It recommends against Americans traveling there at all. On the other hand, the website of Young Pioneer Tours, Otto Warmbier's travel agency, said that traveling to North Korea was, quote, extremely safe. The tour operator specializes in taking you to destinations your mother would rather you stay away from. His parents had their concerns, but, as Cindy Warmbier later said, why would you say no to a kid like this? Early in the tour, the group is visiting this ship, the USS Pueblo. The North Korean military captured it in 1968. The North Koreans claimed it had entered their territorial waters. Now, it's a tourist attraction. When the North Korean tour guide explains that the ship was seized from the United States, he doesn't say the United States. He says the imperial enemy. Between 1950 and 1953, the US dropped an estimated 635,000 tons of bombs on the country, plus some 32,000 tons of napalm. Major cities were obliterated. 75% of Pyongyang was destroyed. During the war, as many as 1 million civilians perished. In 1953, a ceasefire ended combat in the Korean War, but a peace agreement was never signed. Technically, the North is still at war with the South, and with its ally, the US. Most Americans are unaware of this war, so much so that the Korean War is often referred to as the Forgotten War. Not so in North Korea. The North Korean tour guide explains what happened back then to the 82 American sailors that were captured along with the ship. They were beaten, starved, and only released after 11 months. Otto Warmbier is not visiting just any country. He's in enemy territory. Danny Grattan, his roommate during the tour, will later recount that Otto seemed a little bit shocked. To lighten the mood, he and the other tour members give Otto a nickname, Imperial Enemy. The rest of the tour goes smoothly. Sightseeing during the day, restaurants and bars at night. They even engage with the local kids by having a friendly snowball fight. One of the reasons people travel is to understand the world a little better. Brilliant does that for learning. It helps you engage with ideas in a hands-on way so you can unlock the intuition you already have. Concepts that once felt slippery start to click, and once they do, you begin to see patterns everywhere. Instead of just watching explanations, you're actively working through problems, testing ideas, and building real knowledge. We particularly like Brilliant's Probability and Chance course. It helps you reason through uncertainty, from expected value to conditional probability, and makes you more confident in the decisions you make. If leveling up your math, data, or computer science skills is on your list this year, Brilliant's courses adapt to you. They start at the right level with personalized practice you can actually use, so you hit the learning goals that matter to you. To get started, go to brilliant.org/fern or scan the QR code. Brilliant is offering 20% off an annual premium subscription, giving you unlimited access to everything on the platform. Back to January 1st, after the fireworks. When the tour group returns to the Yanggokdo Hotel, they split up. Some go to the bar. Danny Grattan heads to the bowling alley. They lose track of Otto. When Danny gets to his room, around 4:30 a.m., Otto is in bed, sound asleep. Then, a day and a half later, the group is ready to get on the plane. It's time to go home. As the last members of the group, Danny's and Otto's passports are checked. The officers take an unusually long time to scan their documents. Then Otto feels a sudden tap on his shoulder. There are 2 North Korean soldiers behind him. They lead him away. Danny doesn't think much of it and jokes, "Well, that's the last we'll ever see of you." 2.5 months later, Otto is standing trial in North Korea's Supreme Court. He's accused of violating Article 60 of the DPRK Criminal Code, state subversion. The central piece of evidence is this CCTV footage. It's time-stamped. The early hours of New Year's Day, 2016. It shows a staff-only area in the Yanggakdo Hotel. A shadowy figure removes a poster from the wall and appears to set it on the ground. The poster looked like this, a propaganda poster, and it contained the Supreme Leader's name. "Let's arm ourselves strongly with Kim Jong-il's patriotism." To remove it from the wall is a serious crime, a bid to impair the unity of North Korea's people. And that shadowy figure? According to the prosecutors, that is Otto Warmbier. The trial only lasts an hour. The Young Pioneers' North Korean tour guide testifies against Otto. A second witness takes the stand, an employee who says they noticed the poster had been taken from the wall. Otto's belongings are presented as evidence, and fingerprints are shown on a flat-screen TV. But most of the supposed evidence came from Otto's confession 2 weeks earlier. Here, he goes into the details.
On January 1st, 2016, New Year's Day, I committed severe crimes against both the people and the government of the DPR Korea. The task was given by the Friendship United Methodist Church. At the encouragement of the Z Society and the connivance of the United States administration, I came to commit this crime task.
The full story goes like this. His friend's mother, a deaconess at the Friendship Methodist Church in his hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio, instructed him to deal a blow to North Korea by stealing an important political slogan to be hung in her church as a trophy. As a reward, he'd receive a used car worth $10,000. Were he to be detained, the church would pay his family $200,000.
The aim of this crime was to harm the work ethic and motivation of the Korean people.
He told his mother about his plans.
She cried and said not to do anything dangerous. I considered less, not wanting to hurt my mother. But since then, I received several alluring pressures from the Friendship United Methodist Church, leading me to finally decide on my crime attempt.
He then shared his plans with a member of the Z Society, a secret society at the University of Virginia that Otto wanted to join. He'd heard all of its members go on to get high-paying jobs.
He promised if I was successful, he would help me gain membership in the Z Society.
Finally, he decided to do it.
After I planned in detail to accomplish my plan, I arrived in Pyongyang on December 29th, 2015, through Beijing. On the early morning of January 1st, 2016, I committed my crime of taking out the important political slogan from the staff-only area of the Yanggakdo International Hotel, aimed at harming the work ethic and the motivation of the Korean people.
And, he explains, the plot goes all the way to the top.
The United States administration already knows about my act through the CIA, which is closely linked to the Z Society, and connived at my crime.
The church, too, is linked to the government.
The Friendship United Methodist Church is not a typical church. It is very wealthy, with $42 million. That is why the United States administration has very close ties with this church.
He was manipulated, plain and simple.
I was clearly given the task by the Friendship United Methodist Church. I was encouraged by the Z Society. My crime is very severe and pre-planned. I regret my actions more than anything. I beg for forgiveness, and I beg for help in any way possible to save my life.
완비어의 발언이 끝났습니다. 들으신 바와 같이 미 행정부는 우리 공화국을 반대하는 정말 더러운 행위를 감행하고 있습니다.
Experts agree that Otto Warmbier's confession seemed quite obviously coerced and staged. North Korea has a history of coercing confessions, and the US accused North Korea of broadcasting this one for propaganda purposes. A member of the Z Society said Otto had never approached them and denied any affiliation with the CIA. And the senior pastor at Friendship United Methodist Church said he didn't know of the deaconess mentioned by Otto. But this is later, after it's too late. Now, standing before the Supreme Court, all Otto can do is beg.
I was used and manipulated. Please, act the same with me. Please save my life.
But his pleas fall on deaf ears. He's handcuffed and led from the room. He's been sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. 2 days later, on March 18, the Korean Central News Agency released the CCTV footage to the public. Western news outlets treat the footage with suspicion. That figure could be anyone. One story notes that the corridor is well lit, something that, in a country where electricity is scarce, is far from the norm for staff-only spaces. Some of his tour mates give interviews. One of them, Sarah McLaughlin, says there was an issue with the time shown in the video.
Your group had been out at a New Year's Eve party in the hours before that. Were you even back at the hotel then?
No, the time didn't match up at all.
According to her, the young pioneers didn't return to the hotel until around 3 a.m., more than an hour after the footage was allegedly captured. Another tour mate says in an interview with the BBC that Otto was careful to observe the rules. They'd been told not to take pictures of military staff or installations, and he'd been nervous when taking a photo with military personnel in the background.
Men for mig giver det simpelthen ikke mening, at den samme fyr, som stod og var så nervøs over at få taget det her ene billede, som måske var lidt på kant med det, vi havde fået at vide, vi måtte, så skulle kunne drikke sig så fuld og forvandle sig til et helt andet menneske nærmest, og så bare jorde op og prøve at stjæle et banner.
His roommate, Danny Grattan, also doubts that it was Otto.
We never mentioned anything remotely like that. We'd already bought some souvenirs. In my heart of hearts, the guy I knew for 3 or 4 days was not that type of guy.
Everything about the whole story was fabricated, in my opinion.
Otto's parents, Fred and Cindy, turned to the Obama administration for help, but the Warmbiers later said they were advised to keep quiet. According to GQ, Robert King, the special envoy for North Korean human rights issues, warned that drawing media attention to the ordeal might anger the regime. What makes it even more complicated is that the United States has never had a formal diplomatic relationship with North Korea. There is no US embassy in Pyongyang. The Swedish ambassador serves as the liaison for Americans, but the Swedes' calls and emails are met with silence. The days turn to weeks, turn to months. Efforts at back-channel diplomacy are stymied. The issue is passed from one administration to the next. No one knows where Otto is, what he's doing, or how he's being treated. Then, in early June 2017, some 17 months after his detention, the news finally arrives. Otto is unconscious. An extraction team of doctors and diplomats is put together. And finally,
let me start by saying that I'm glad Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and I, along with a very talented team, were able to get Otto Warmbier back with his parents.
Otto Warmbier is returned to U.S. soil on June 13.
We're thrilled that our son is on American soil and I'm able to talk to you on Otto's behalf, and I'm able to wear the jacket that he wore when he gave his confession. Otto, I love you and I'm so crazy about you. Last night, being able to see Otto for the first time in, gosh, I bet it's 18 months, it was fantastic. Otto's not in great shape right now, and he's been through a real tough time, and it's great to have him with us, and I'm very proud of him.
Otto is home, but he's changed tremendously. When Cindy and Fred met Otto at the airport, they were shocked.
We walked over to the plane. We heard this howling, involuntary, inhuman sound. Otto was on the stretcher across in the plane, and he was jerking violently, making these inhuman sounds. Otto had a shaved head. He had a feeding tube coming out of his nose. He was blind. He was deaf.
He was taken to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center's Neuroscience Intensive Care Unit, where extensive imaging and diagnostic tests immediately began.
His vital signs were stable upon arrival and have remained so.
He doesn't need help breathing, no signs of infection, no dysfunction of non-neurological organs. His neurological condition, though, is described as unresponsive wakefulness, what used to be called a vegetative state. He blinks, sometimes his eyes open, but he isn't aware of his surroundings and doesn't respond to verbal commands. He doesn't speak. Sometimes he moves, but his motions aren't intentional. His arms and legs are extremely weak.
Well, we thought he was in a coma, but you couldn't call it a coma.
The Warmbiers remain at his bedside as the tests are conducted.
Our image of Otto, as you know, was of someone just wonderful, beautiful inside and out, and to see how he came home was too much for us. But I almost passed out, but I got it together and I rode in the ambulance with him because I did not want him to be alone anymore. He'd been alone for way too long.
He's surrounded by his loved ones, but his condition soon worsens. He develops a high fever, 40 degrees Celsius. Fred and Cindy Warmbier are told that he'll never wake up, and they ask to have his feeding tube removed. 6 days after his release, Otto is dead. The news travels across the world.
The family of Otto Warmbier has said goodbye.
Trauer und Entsetzen nach dem Tod des Studenten Otto Warmbier.
Otto Warmbier скончался после возвращения из тюрьмы в Северной Корее.
Otto Warmbier murió pocos días después de ser entregado a los Estados Unidos.
而在台湾时间今天20号凌晨去世。
The American student who fell into a coma while in North Korean custody and has died.
On June 22, in Wyoming, Ohio, more than 2,500 people attend his funeral. The condition in which Otto Warmbier came back to the U.S. and his subsequent death are discussed nationwide. He left the United States in good health. He returned on the brink of death.
Do you know what happened to him in North Korea?
I don't.
Content note: the following chapter discusses suicide. Viewer discretion is advised. Upon his release, North Korea gave an explanation for Otto's state. They said he contracted botulism, a rare and severe kind of food poisoning, after eating a meal of spinach and pork. After he fell ill, they gave him a sleeping pill, to which he had some sort of unexpected reaction, which sent him into a state of unresponsive wakefulness. But U.S. medical experts are quick to dispute this story. 3 doctors, experts in neurology, ran tests on Otto while he was still alive. At the request of the family, they hold a press conference to give their opinions.
Those tests did not reveal any evidence of active or chronic denervation, nor any repetitive stimulation that would suggest active botulism at this time.
The North Koreans, it seems, are lying, and the Warmbiers have a different story.
They tortured him. They intentionally injured him. It looked like someone had taken a pair of pliers and rearranged his bottom teeth. He had a large scar on his right foot.
They destroyed him.
They purposely and intentionally injured Otto.
On September 25, 2017, Fred and Cindy Warmbier gave an interview on Fox and Friends. Trump apparently watched. This becomes the narrative: physical torture, and, as a consequence, brain damage. But soon, serious doubts emerge. Let's go through his injuries one by one. First, there was a noticeable scar on Otto's right foot. This is Dr. Lakshmi Kota-Samarko, the coroner selected to conduct an external autopsy. Fred Warmbier had noticed the scar, but had Dr. Samarko?
Physically, as far as wounds, there were a few small scars that we documented. There was one that we really couldn't explain for medical instrumentation, which some of the other scars we could. But there wasn't anything on the external examination to indicate, other than that one scar that we couldn't explain, to indicate torture.
The Warmbiers opted against a complete autopsy, offering no reason for this decision. But Dr. Samarko did perform an external inspection. Later, in a lawsuit against North Korea, an expert witness cited the scar on Otto's foot as potential evidence that he was subjected to torture, possibly electric shock. But does this injury prove Otto was tortured? No. Then there are his teeth. Fred Warmbier said it looked as though Otto's bottom teeth had been rearranged. Dr. Samarko couldn't confirm this.
We also consulted our forensic dentist, Dr. Wright, and had him take a look at the imaging, specifically dealing with the lower teeth and mandible. He agreed with us that there is no evidence of trauma to the lower teeth or mandible.
In the lawsuit, this finding was disputed. Two of Otto's private dentists testified that his post-mortem dental x-rays, when compared to previous x-rays, indicated that some of his lower teeth had been bent backward, movement consistent with an impact injury. The New York Times had reported that Otto had been repeatedly beaten. That's not impossible. An ex-North Korean spy who was familiar with, though not directly involved in Otto's case, said he'd heard Otto was roughed up by prison guards.
그분이 감옥에 있으면서 간수들이 있잖아요. 간수들이 많이 때렸대요. 왜 때렸냐면 언어가 안 되잖아요.
He also continues to say that there might have been waterboarding. To him, that's standard practice, what he'd call battery rather than torture. It's difficult to say whether this ex-spy is credible, though. And even if Otto's teeth were bent backward, it's impossible to know for certain what caused that. Finally, the biggest injury of all, his brain injury.
The most important diagnostic test thus far was a magnetic resonance imaging scan of the brain. This study showed extensive loss of brain tissue in all regions of the brain.
In other words, the damage is universal, and scans show it occurred all at once. There's a technical term for this, an anoxic encephalopathy. It means an injury caused by a lack of oxygen to the brain. So either blood ceased to flow to Otto's brain, which would result in a lack of oxygen, or Otto stopped breathing.
This pattern of brain injury, however, is usually seen as a result of cardiopulmonary arrest, where the blood supply to the brain is inadequate for a period of time, resulting in the death of brain tissue.
In general terms, one of the more likely causes of a cardiopulmonary arrest in a young person would have been a respiratory arrest.
In all likelihood, Otto stopped breathing. Any number of events could have caused this: an allergic reaction, choking, near drowning, anything that might prevent oxygen from reaching his brain. But which of these events was the cause? There's no way to know.
We have no certain or verifiable knowledge of the cause or circumstances of his neurological injury.
A cause that could almost certainly be ruled out was repeated beatings. Repeated beatings to the head would have caused asymmetrical damage, with some regions being affected more than others. Also, scans revealed no fractures of the skull. Despite all this uncertainty, the Warmbiers insist on torture. And the question of whether Otto was tortured or not is not a medical side note. By now, it has the potential to escalate a simmering conflict between two nuclear powers. A year and a half before, mere days after Otto's detention, North Korea had carried out its fourth nuclear test in defiance of international sanctions. It also launched a long-range missile. In September 2016, it performed another nuclear test. By 2017, the year of Otto's return, the confrontation between the US and North Korea was near the boiling point.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
It was the beginning of the 2017-2018 North Korea crisis. Meanwhile, Otto Warmbier's case took on an increased political weight. Trump had adopted the torture hypothesis as fact. Senator John McCain said Otto had been tortured and murdered. Senators Adam Schiff and Marco Rubio also used the word murder. Fred Warmbier's analysis was that his son served as a sort of human shield.
North Korea doesn't do anything by mistake. It was their fourth nuclear weapons test, and they had a lot of things they wanted to cover, and they felt like Otto was going to provide them the security they needed to get away with these things.
Then, in 2018, Michael Flukinger, the doctor that helped bring Otto back to the US, revealed a new piece of information to GQ. The staff at the North Korean hospital where Otto stayed told Flukinger that they received him the day after his trial, and he was already unresponsive. They had to resuscitate him, then give him oxygen and put him on a ventilator, or he would die, Flukinger told GQ. Also, there's a brain scan dated April 2016.
We received copies of brain MRI images from the medical personnel in North Korea. The earliest images are dated April 2016. Based upon our analysis of those images, the brain injury likely occurred in the preceding weeks.
Of course, the North Korean story might be a lie. It might not be true that he was hospitalized the morning after his trial, but there is strong medical evidence that he sustained his brain injury in the days or weeks after March 16. In any case, Otto Warmbier was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor, but it's very unlikely that he was actually sent to one of the notoriously horrific North Korean labor camps. American detainees are treated differently. According to GQ, Otto Warmbier most likely stayed in a used guest house in downtown Pyongyang during his detention. The hard labor he was sentenced to would likely have been planting soybeans and making bricks. Grueling, backbreaking work, but nothing compared to coal mining, which is typical for North Koreans. North Korea needed him as a bargaining chip, and bargaining chips don't have much value if they aren't in good condition. And in a sense, he was.
We believe that for somebody who's been bedridden for more than a year, that his body was in excellent condition, his skin was in excellent condition, and we didn't see any evidence of decubiti or bed sores.
In its article, GQ proposes a different theory than torture. During the 2 months between his detention and his confession, Otto was likely subjected to relentless interrogation for as long as 15 hours per day. The only respite from the interrogation would have been North Korean propaganda films. Previous prisoners were told their government had forgotten them. Some fell into debilitating depressions, even attempting suicide. At trial, so hours, weeks, or days before he supposedly fell into a coma, he was visibly desperate.
Please think of my family. I'm the oldest son in my family.
GQ speculates that in the hopeless hours after his sentencing, Otto may have attempted to take his own life. A lack of oxygen to his brain could have caused his injury. Of course, this theory is just one of many. An allergic reaction to a sleeping pill, an excessive administration of drugs, a suicide attempt, a heart attack, a form of torture that left no obvious lasting marks. It could have been any of these things. Without Otto here to tell the tale, we may never know the truth. In May 2018, something weird happened. Trump tweeted that he was going to meet Kim Jong-un in person, and everything changed.
Getting a good picture, everybody, so we look nice and handsome and thin.
After the Singapore summit, Otto's name all but disappeared from Trump's lips, replaced by the name of Kim Jong-un.
And then we fell in love, okay? No, really. He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters. We fell in love.
The previous year, Trump tweeted that he tried so hard to be Kim's friend and referred to their relationship as
It's a very special relationship.
In 2019, when asked whether he thought Kim knew about Otto's case, his reply was startling.
I don't believe he knew about it.
The Warmbiers were outraged. Trump had helped them bring Otto home and relisted Kim Jong-un's country as a state sponsor of terrorism. Now he seemed to admire him?
Well, he is very talented. Anybody that takes over a situation like he did at 26 years of age and is able to run it, and run it tough. Very few people at that age, you can take 1 out of 10,000 probably couldn't do it.
Otto Warmbier was many things: an all-American boy, an unlucky tourist, a loving son. But on the international stage, he was a pawn and a symbol. Pyongyang deployed Otto on the chessboard of politics, using him domestically as a mouthpiece to spread anti-American propaganda, and internationally as a bargaining chip, a hostage to be traded for the easing of sanctions or other U.S. concessions. For the Trump administration, Otto Warmbier was useful as a symbol, driving the narrative that he was tortured by a barbarous regime and possibly using his death as a means of psychologically preparing the American public for war, the threat of which Trump hoped would make Kim back down. Otto was sentenced to 15 years hard labor for an alleged crime that in most countries would be considered, at worst, vandalism, based on a sham trial. No matter what happened to him, that in itself is damning enough. And even if he likely never had to go to one of North Korea's prison camps, they are hell on earth. Uncertainty about his cause of death shouldn't distract from the exceptional brutality and cruelty of Kim Jong-un's regime.